What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Blondes Building Equity. You guys know for sure that we're in this amazing investor community. It's called Future Flipper, and they just turned into Wealthy Investor. We talk about it all the time. And so this is one of our fellow students in our community. So I'm super excited to connect with him. His name is Daniel Kong. He was able to, after just 3 years of investing into real estate, quit his job with full financial freedom. And now he's running a 7-figure fix and flip business. That's insane. Wow. I think that's all of our goal. So everybody welcome Daniel Kong.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I'm super stoked to be on board. Big fan of you guys. Love what you guys are doing. Excited. Just like the energy and this like the stuff you guys bring to the space.
Thank you. That's so sweet. And I think we're inspired by everyone in the coaching calls because everyone has a different story and perspective. And it's inspiring that so many people have gone from a normal job to now having financial freedom through investing in real estate. So how did you first get started with your first deal?
I think it all started with like this little book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think a lot of people had the same.
I think that's all of us.
Yeah, I think that's all of us.
I was working as a software developer as my W-2 and just like I live in Hawaii. It's kind of like a higher price point market. So like at the time I knew nothing about real estate. I never expected to like own a house. I was just planning to rent for the rest of my life because all my friends who bought houses, they had to eat like ramen because like they're barely making it as far as just affording the mortgage. And so I was like, I'm just gonna rent for somewhere cheap and live my life just like I never thought I could afford a house here in Hawaii, you know, it's just but then I read that book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then like that kind of opened my whole eyes to the idea of like passive investing and the whole like world that I didn't even know existed, because just being like in a 9 to 5, growing up, going to college with my parents, and you're just not exposed to like these kinds of things. And so that kind of turned me on to this whole like new like world. And then from there I just started educating myself, reading, podcasting, meeting people like yourselves, and then eventually got into our first deal, and then it kind of just scaled up from there. So
how did your first deal go? Did you have a lot of money to put into it, or did you use other people's money?
So I actually didn't have any money or very little when I first started, but what I did was, so I was working a W-2, and so I took a loan against my 401k, because you can take a loan against your 401k without penalty. And then I went to like local banks and took out these things called personal lines of credit. So personal line of credit is like an unsecured line of credit where you can go to a bank and just you show them your pay stub and your credit score, and they give you like 10, 20, or $30,000 in just like a line of credit. And one day I went to like 5 banks, just walked to all 5 banks, applied at the same time, because if you apply, there's nothing else that shows up in your credit card on your credit score that says like you have debt out, right? So I'm like, I don't have any debt. Like this is what I want to apply for: 20 grand, 30 grand, 15 grand. And so I got approved for like 15, 20, 30 here, 30, and then I got about 110,000 in just lines of credit from like 5 different banks. And these are unsecured lines of credit, right? Because they're personal lines of credit.
And so there's no interest on those, right?
So there's no interest until you start using it. So like it's like if you don't ever touch it, you pay 0 interest. But when you take it out, you're paying like a daily interest until you put it back.
What's the interest on that?
At the time it was like there's some introductory rates, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%. But then like a simple example would be, let's say you have line of credit for, let's say, like $20,000. And if you took out the full 20,000 for a full year at, let's say, 10% for simplicity's sake, you would pay like $2,000 in interest for that whole over the course of that year, right? But let's say you took out the 20,000 and you only held it out for like 6 months. Now you're only going to get $1,000 for like in interest. Or let's say you only took out 5,000 and you had it for 6 months. Now you're only paying $500 in interest. So like you can see like it just matters on how long you have it out. When you put it back in, you're not paying any interest again.
Right. That's actually what we did on our second project. I wasn't a personal line of credit, but I did a business line of credit. Okay, so I used my previous business to get, and we got approved for 85,000, which was great, because then we use that as our down payment. But the interest is pretty high. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know if I would do it again, but I guess it's easier than dealing with an investor because you don't have anyone to answer to. But the interest is definitely really, really high. So for us, it was like, it makes sense if we can keep rolling it over into a deal.
Right. Did you find it easy to pay back that money pretty quickly?
So the first deal I did was because Hawaii is such a high price point, I decided to invest in Indianapolis, out of state, where the price points are like a lot less. So the first deal probably took about, let's say, like 3 or 4 months, and then I was able to put it back took out the line to do the deal, and then pay it back right afterwards. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. So how did you invest that far away from Hawaii? Isn't that a
And
lot
so I
of
mean, it seems like very scary to invest in out of state, but literally all I did was I read David Green's book, like How to Invest in Out of State, and I just followed
Right.
everything that he said. It just comes down to phone calls, calling references, and so like if you think about it, like even in your own like your own like market, there's probably people who like you trust, and like if this person has a good reputation in my market, like if I ask them for reference or get their advice, then like you can kind of trust them to be like to do the right thing, right? So if somebody has a good name in a market, you can kind of like believe their advice or trust that they're going to be like doing the right thing because it took so long for them to build that name. They're not going to throw it away on something silly or stupid.
right,
So
but then who manages the property well? Like how do you know your contractors are there every day getting the work done? Do you have someone on the ground like checking in?
so I through referrals and talking to a lot of people, I actually got a project manager for like, our renovation. So
Okay.
we
Nice.
pay this project manager like 10% over whatever the renovation was. So if the renovation was 30,000, you pay him 3,000. If it's 50,000, you pay him 5,000. All he does is just like check up a few times a week with the contractors, making sure they're working, checking the work, right? Because the contractor's not gonna send you like the other bad work, right? So
Mhm.
he's an advocate for me, paid by me, so his like loyalty is to me, and then he's just making sure that things are getting done, moving along, etc. And so like the he's kind of like, and he can also be like an a-hole to them on the ground, or like I mean not a-hole, he can like be like the driver, and then he can blame me.
Yeah.
So like, Daniel wants this, Daniel wants this, so he makes a good relationship with them. So he has a good relationship with my contractors, but then he's also kind of like the ball down the field and making sure that things are getting done like on time and on budget.
Wow. And 10%, that doesn't seem like very much. What are we paying ours?
Well, the thing
Yeah.
is, so
Oh,
it's not very much for us as an investor, right? But you think about it. So this guy does it for a lot of other state clients, and so just visiting a project a couple times a week for $3,000, right? I mean, it's not a bad gig. Just get like 10, 20 other investors. Now, like I mean, like you add that up as far as his time, it's not a very like his it's like super worth it for him because he's imagined a lot of projects for a lot of people, and he just has to show up, just visit. It's all within the same city, right? It's like in his wheelhouse, and so like it's not like from a ROI on his point is really good, and the ROI and trust on our point is really good. So it's like a win-win situation for both of us.
Right.
wow. Okay. And so now you're saying you're making seven figures flipping. Or did you
Mhm.
transition and go to Hawaii, or did you stay in different markets? Where are you flipping now?
So yeah, I mean, great question. I started in Indianapolis because I didn't think I could play in the Hawaii market, and so but eventually, after going to meetups and like talking to different people, I thought, hey, why don't I take the same skill set I'm learning over here, fixing so burring out of state is the same thing as fixing flipping, but you just don't sell it, you refinance in the back end, right? So my
Yeah.
plan was to come to Hawaii and fix and flip over here because it's not a great burr market, but it's not cash flow heavy, but it's good for fix and flipping. So fix and flip here, make some active income, and then pay for some like the birds that are going out of state. But I got very lucky when I came to Hawaii. There's like a great network of people who are very helpful, and like it's got a few birds. Actually, my first couple deals over here in Hawaii, which actually led me to be financially free in just like 3 years. And so, and then now and then just continue to like fix and flip and burr here in Hawaii. So.
Wow.
Well, how do you rent them out though? Is that difficult in Hawaii? Like, or do you do Airbnb or like long-term rentals?
So all the first ones we did were all long-term rentals, and then the trick is you're trying to find the what you call like kind of multifamily, but then like so that in Hawaii we don't really have too much multifamily, but we have these things called they call it monster houses, but it's like a single family home with like one of them is like 11 bedrooms and 6 baths, right? So it's like, but you can rent them out to like 4 different units because like they're kind of like meant to be like so it's a single family house on tax records, but in reality there's like separate entrances, separate kitchens, separate like living spaces, so you can kind of like actually rent them out like a quadplex. And so that's the kind of way that you can kind of house hack your way to getting cash flow here in Hawaii. And then now we're doing some Airbnbs as well too, but then it's like when we started, it was just all long-term rentals.
Wow, amazing. And so, with the market changing, with everything going on, how are you guys feeling in Hawaii? What's kind of your plan for the next year?
So actually, like in Hawaii, like the market has shifted a little bit, but it's not like I guess, a big shift as some other places. And so like because we are pretty conservative on our numbers in the front end, even though the market has shifted a little bit, we're still making profits, just a little bit less profit on our deals. And so like we're business as usual for us. We're looking to just continue fix and flipping, and we're actually, I mean, the last year and a half, because we had a lot of success, we're actually looking to try and do bigger deals on the mainland that cash flow and give us some tax savings. So We've been actually
Mhm.
buying commercial properties in Midwest states, and now we're just kind of getting into some multifamily deals where it's like a little bit larger and a little bit like better returns for like for our time.
And who are you working with to find those deals out of state? Do you have wholesalers? Is it just from the community? How are you finding those deals for the multifamily?
We kind of partnered up with, so for our commercial buildings, we partnered up with some local guys who are actually already buying out of state, and so like they kind of built like a team and boots on the ground. So we're kind of like we're paying to like use their team members and kind of like leverage like their team, and so like the brokers, contractors, all different pieces that you need for the puzzle, and so like we're piggybacking off the guys who are already kind of established over there, and then that's how we're picking up the commercial buildings. And then on the multifamily side, the same thing. We kind of joined like another network of just multifamily like syndicators, and so we're just piggybacking on top of their like success or their boots on the ground or like their deal flow and like cash reserves.
So what do you do? What do you mean you piggyback? Like if they're the ones finding the deal, do you just put your money in to invest, or how are you also boots on the ground?
So we're not boots on the ground, but one of the things is like so in our fix and flip side, right? So like everything kind of like flowed together like naturally. So when I was doing the burrs, I picked up a skill set to how to like renovate and manage contractors. And so that brought it over to Hawaii to start investing here in Hawaii. The one thing here in Hawaii is there are big price points because like the prices are a lot more expensive. So along with that means you have to raise a lot more capital. So in the last couple of years, we've been raising probably like millions of dollars. A lot of it is on social media actually, but just in private lenders or partnerships to kind of like do our deals. And right now we actually have like a small waiting list for like on deal flow for like our partners because people want to invest with us, but we don't have enough deals to handle the demand. So that's one of the reasons why
Right.
we're looking at multifamily because in so far our fixed and flip we offer like a 12% like fixed rate. If the deal does good or bad, they just get like 12% like no matter what. But in the multifamily space, there's like the potential to like maybe make like 16 to like 22% on their money, right? The one downside is that it's like a 5 year hold as opposed to like a 1 year hold. But then like
Hmm.
because we have like all this pent up demand, like let's match this demand to like a bigger supply, which would be like the multifamily deals in like let's say Texas or Kansas City. And these guys
Yeah.
are raising like it's like $10 million for their deal. If you raise let's say $5 million for that deal, you get a piece of the equity as far as like the general partner side or whatever kind of split that like that's going along with there. Along with like utilizing some of our team members on the Kansas City market just because we're buying commercial properties over there for like our own stuff too. So
When do you get paid? Like, okay, so you get equity in the deal. Do you get paid at all if you bring investors in, or it's only the equity build?
so then there's like a bunch of different ways to get paid. Then the first thing is called an acquisition fee. So then
Okay.
like different guys will charge different kinds of acquisition fees. Like some guys will charge high acquisition, some guys will charge very little. The group that we're running with, they charge like an average like 5% acquisition fee. So let's say you buy like a $10 million building, the acquisition fee would be was like what's 5% of 10 million? So is it like uh,
50,000?
500,000? I think 500,000. So
Oh,
five
that's a
hundred
lot.
thousand dollar acquisition fee on that, right? So then that acquisition fee gets split between whoever who has a role in that. So let's say like I bring like on a $10 million or a $10 million purchase, there's maybe like a $5 million raise, right? Let's say I bring the whole $5 million to fund this deal. Out of that 500,000, maybe I'll get like 200,000 as an acquisition fee on the front end. And then
Right.
the rest of the way is like on the cash flow is usually like a waterfall where the limited partners are getting the cash flow first, but if there's leftover, it'll go to like the GPs, usually like a 30-70 split, where like so you get like a little bit of cash flow depending on how cash flow heavy the deal is. And then on the back end, on the exit in the 3 to 5 years, that's when you get like the biggest payout as far as like the equity that you kind of get. So you get a little bit in the front. If you're having to manage a deal on the asset management side, you get like a little bit for like an asset management fee. If there's a refinance, some there's like a refinance fee. But then the biggest payout is going to be at the very end on the equity when you actually sell the apartment at the very end. But then at the same time, just to bring the deal on money, you get a small like chunk up front just for like being the acquisitions.
Right. And so now everything that is turning, you're kind of focusing on raising funds and doing more syndications.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just well, so our fix and flip is still like the bread and butter. We're still like doing this. This is like I mean, like we're not gonna stop doing this, but then like leveraging like the demand for like put people to place money and matching them
Yeah.
to like bigger deals over here, right? It's like and then just
Right.
also for tax savings because when you fix and flip, it's active income, so we get killed in taxes, right? So
Yeah.
if you invest in these like syndications or these bigger apartment buildings, cost sakes, bonus depreciation, you get to write off huge amount of taxes and get cash flow. And so borrowing commercial buildings and like on the in the Midwest is like how we're avoiding taxes and also building up our cash flow.
So for the acquisitions, Do you get paid that right away, even if it's like a bad deal? Like, let's say you bring investors in,
Yeah.
and God forbid it's a cash losing deal. Like, no one really makes money. Do you still get the acquisitions fee for bringing people in?
You actually do. I mean, that's just, well, number one is like you never want to get to a bad deal. So like there should be no reason for
Right.
a deal to be bad, right? Because like you should underwrite it conservatively. There's a lot of different things, even and you're expecting the market to like be bad or like in the future because that's why it's like a 3 to 7 door, like a 3 to 7 like year window. So at year three, if the market's great, you sell then. If that year five, the market's great, you sell then. If it's not great, you can hold on to like the seventh year. But you should never lose money on your investors, assuming that the deal was underwritten correctly and then you have good operators who are running, right? But God forbid that it did happen, then like the acquisition fee comes at the very beginning, and that's part of like the whole deal underwriting process. So when you're looking at the profit, it's basically like it's just like you pay a realtor as a commission for on the back end when you're fixing, like it's built into the whole pro forma of the deal. So the
Right.
acquisition fee is paid upfront to you as part of like the whole pro forma.
Wow, I kind of like that.
No, yeah, it's super awesome. And so, how do you distribute, funds to the LP? So, what is their benefit? Say I came to you and I'm like, "Hey, Daniel, I would love to invest with you. I have $1 million. What do you offer to those limited partners?"
So the first thing you're gonna get in the lim the I mean the as a limited partner is basically like you're getting a piece of the deal, right? So like the every deal has slightly different kind of like breakdown of like profit and equity. Do you want to be more cash flow heavy? Do you want to take more risk and
Right.
get more like upside, whatever? But then like your number one is you should get a big tax a paper tax loss in year one. So like let's say you invested $1 million, ideally you get between like a 500 to an $800,000 like year one loss on like on paper, just because they're gonna do a cost thing and a bonus depreciation. I mean, so basically like the number one thing you get in the beginning is like a huge tax loss in year one. And
Yeah.
then throughout the deal, depending on the structure and the type of assets you're flipping, you're gonna get cash flow during that time. So like whether like a little bit or a lot will depend a lot on the deal itself.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, hopefully the average syndication deal is double your money in 5 years. So if you put in
Wow.
$1 million in 5 years, you should get back 2 million. And that's kind of like the just like the standard you'll see across most syndication like other returns and models.
Wow, that's amazing, especially because you get that tax write off. So
Yeah.
not only so say you made $1 million, anybody listening, and you are paying taxes where we live in California, and I think Hawaii is super high as well. You make that $1 million, then you actually only get 500K after all the taxes and fees and everything that
Exactly.
happens. And then so now you're pretty much quadrupling your money because now you're not paying taxes on that million and you're also doubling it. So if you can be patient and
Mm-hmm.
wait 5 years,
Yeah.
there's so much benefit, but you just have to work with the right syndicators.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like you really have to have such like a strong relationship where they trust you. And so how do you feel like you formed that with your investors for them to really give you their money for 5 years?
The big thing is just we've had a great track record for like on our fix and flip sides, and so like we just I mean like we pride ourselves in like always doing the right thing, whether it's I mean like and so we've never come close to losing, but like basically like the whenever there's any kind of situations where like we could err on our side or our investor side, we always want to give like the investors the benefit of the doubt, like should we pay the extra interest for the month or these different kinds of things where like and just making sure like they're informed, like they get to like know where their money is and keeping them like up to date and just kind of building like a good name for us in the community. And so I think like one of the things like you can like fix if you break it is like your name in the community, right? And so like
Yeah.
it's so important to make sure that you have a good name in the community as far as just like the doing the right thing and then like treating people like the right way and then also just like keeping your word whenever you promise something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. That's important.
Yeah. And so now, so you've been in flipping how long? For 4 years now? Or
Flipping about 3 years, yeah, ish, yeah, 3 years, yeah. So
Quick.
wow. So
I
that's
guess you kind of got in at a pretty good time. 3 years ago was kind of on the up and up,
well,
right?
I mean, like to be honest with you, I wish I got in 10 years ago. If I got in 10 years ago, I'd be like crushing it way more, right? So I mean, like, I mean, just like 2008, right? Like that's like the prime time to get it in. So like you always want to be in the earlier, but I'm not complaining about like the when I got in. But when I did get in, actually in the Indianapolis market, I was buying houses for like 50 to 70,000, right? And so I was like, there were guys who were in the market who were bought those same houses for like 10 to 20 like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, shucks, I missed the boat. Like I'm like it was too late for me. Like, but now like 3 or 4 years later, I'm like, I wish I could buy the same deals for 50 to 70, right? Because it's always you always think like, oh, I missed the boat on this other thing, but then 3 or 4 years from now, you'd be like, wow, like 2023 was an amazing time to be able to get into real estate because 2027, now the prices are like even crazier or higher, right? Or that there's less opportunity or whatever it is.
Do you think they were going into a crash though?
I know. Who's my question?
I feel like, so I mean, like it's super like location specific, right? There are so many things where like every location. So even if the whole country crashes, there'll be pockets that will crash harder and pockets where they'll crash less. And so even in 2008, when the market crashed, Hawaii was not hit as hard as some of the other places. And so even within Hawaii, there's like submarkets. And so like the lower incomes, like I mean the west side of our island was hit harder than like the east side where people are more affluent. So like if you look at people who hold assets, hold real estate, and like they're more wealthy, they're not buying properties with loans, or they're using cash or different kind of things. And so like they're not as affected by like the market swings as opposed to like somebody
Right.
who's like working a 9 to 5 and they're trying to just kind of show to make ends meet, or they need to qualify for the loan, and $500 difference in the mortgage make a big difference to them. And so depending on what sub market you're in, even within your market, there may be a letdown or increase. But from what we're seeing, Hawaii is relatively stable, and in the better markets, we expect it to even go up. But we're not underwriting like that, but we expect that to happen. So
Wow. Yeah, you're so right though, especially like the how the market how the economy works, like with the interest rates and everything, the people that are getting the easier loans or getting a lot of handouts are the ones that are going to be affected the most in the end. So maybe there's markets that are just so different.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So if you could go back, I mean, I know you already said, but if you could go back to 3 years ago, obviously you learned so much. I feel like every day we learn in this business. It's crazy. You can never know it all. But if you could go back to 3 years ago with all the knowledge you have today, what would you do? Like, what would your game plan be?
I think, I mean, like number one, like educate and network super hard. But I think
Yeah.
like I would choose I would start in Hawaii as opposed to going to out of state first, just because the big thing you're looking at is the ROI on your time, right? So like if you're doing like a deal like let's say like in like Indianapolis, in equity you're making 20, 30, 40, $50,000, but the deal in Hawaii you're making 100, 200, $300,000 for the exact same amount of time. And so like if you can like in retrospect, if I could spend more time, get a better return on my time in Hawaii as opposed to going out of state, I would have started here earlier. And I don't think I could have jumped into the syndication like as fast because it takes like a track record and kind of like to build up like your brand and like your credibility in order to have people trust you to be able to raise that kind of money. So
Yeah.
if I could just jump straight to multifamily, I would, but I don't think that's like very feasible. But fix and flipping, like you can do it by yourself. It's a one man show if you want to make it like that. And so I think maybe just starting in a higher price point market where the ROI on my time is better will be probably what I would do, I think.
Right, but also you learned a lot probably from those first few deals though.
Hmm.
You know, because if you could have jumped into the higher price range, like God forbid you did lose money, you would have lost 100,000 versus
Yeah,
losing maybe only 10,000.
that's true.
Because
That's right.
the reason you made money in Hawaii and made really good money is because you put your time in with the smaller deals and you probably learned a lot of lessons that you
Yeah,
brought to the
yeah.
bigger deals.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, no. And so I kind of want to know, what does your schedule look like every day? What do you do to kind of like do time block? How run me through your day to day?
I mean, so like because I mean like now that we are doing like I mean as an entrepreneur you're just kind of like growing and doing new things, right? So like it's kind of like we stabilize one thing and then I want to start something else new. And so like we did the birds, now we want to do fix and flip. Now we want to do like the next thing, some Airbnbs. We actually like me and a buddy, we just actually just bought a Lamborghini together. It's like this other like whole little venture. And so but it's a little business model. I can explain that to you later if you want to. But basically it's the constant of just trying to like do more and more and just like add more to my plate is like a struggle for me. And so it's every day just I just want to like do more cool things and like do more deals. And so just wake up at I don't know like 8:30. We have like a touch point with our fix and flip team, and then meetings, just a lot of networking and just talking with people, and then like
Yeah.
learning, and then just checking in with like our team with what do they need, and then eat somewhere good at night. We always like to eat out or just have like good food. That's one of like, the joys of life, right? And then just watch
Yeah.
Netflix at night, and then just call it a night. So not super complicated, just enjoying what we do and just trying to build and do cool things.
Yeah, but like doing something every day for your business, which I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's hard with your schedule to fill it with things because right now we're kind of putting a hold on doing fix and flips because we want to wait until the market has a complete downturn. But we're filling our time with like networking and meeting a lot of people. But you don't always realize the effect of that until later down the road when you need them. Like in 5 years, when we have a huge deal that we want to syndicate, we put in the time for that relationship. So I think if anyone's listening, that's something that's super important, is making sure you're putting in the time for networking and meeting people, even when it doesn't feel like you're getting anything right now out of it. You
Right.
will in the long term.
There's no, so like I think one of the hardest parts when you're first starting out is that like you're doing all this work, learning, educating, networking, and you're getting zero return like immediately, right? Like it's gonna take, you're gonna see like years from now or like months or like a long time forward. And so like the thing is, it's hard to continue to do these things when you don't see like the immediate payback. But like
Yes.
later on is when you're gonna. It's kind of funny too because when I first started, we try our best to just help people and like just out of the goodness of our heart, we enjoy like teaching and helping, and so. But I was never expecting to see any return from this, right? But years later or like months later, people are like, I remember you, Danny, when I was first started and you helped me out. And so like now I want to give you back this or whatever. And so we've gotten so much like free or good things back from us just from like organically just helping people, educating, pointing them in the right direction. And just it's just like networking has played a huge part of our business now by putting in the work 2 or 3 years ago when we first started. So
Exactly.
No, that's so amazing. And so you said you have a team. So what does your team consist of? And like when did you start acquiring that team? In the beginning, were you doing acquisitions, project manage, all of that yourself? And then when did you get a team?
And I was doing it all myself. I think maybe like 2 years ago, we hired like a couple of virtual assistants to kind of help a lot with a few things. And then early like last year or kind of like the middle or early parts of last year, we started just onboarding more and more people as we got more work. So we have like a operations manager, we've got a full-time admin, we've got 3 virtual assistants, we've got like a realtor who's like kind of dedicated to working with us, and we've got 4 interns. And so like it's
What does a virtual assistant do? You said you have 4 of them. Because we had one for a while that we didn't feel like we got the return on our investment.
Yeah. So one of the virtual assistants helps a lot with our social media. So like she helps with like just like graphics, design, scheduling, a lot of things like, and then posting on our Facebook like pages and stuff like, or like on the and just general like, so a lot of one of the big parts of social media is engagement. And so like when you're trying to build a brand or trying to grow organically, like the more people you kind of reach out to, the more people will kind of respond or like reach back out to you, right? So if you think about like you've got like 1,000 people on your friends list, you only will probably like talk to like 5 of them, right? But the reason why you talk to 5 of them is because they're responding to you or they're giving you value. And so one of the jobs of our social media girl, virtual assistant, is just outreaching. And then I taught her how to sound like me. So she says like, bro, man, she does all the things. And it's like, in the beginning, it's like I slowly trained her in my voice where she can respond to all their comments. So like when we get like a comments or like a post, it's typically like not me who's responding to all of the comments, but like you need to engage with people, right? And so like we built over the years, we just engaging on social media. So like one of the virtual assistants is like our engagement and like kind of social media specialist. Another assistant is just bookkeeping, because it's like there's so much like recording and things, keeping track of bank accounts, projects, different kinds of things, and organizing the chaos of bookkeeping, right? So another one.
How do you trust them with like access to all of that though? I think that's just a scary thing. Like, how do you build that relationship to where you're like, okay, here's my bank password and my account and everything?
So we use this app. It used to call it Personal Capital. I think it's called Empower now. But basically, what it does is it aggregates all of your bank accounts and then into like a view only dashboard. So she can see all the transactions. She's not actually logging into the bank accounts, but it's like she can see all the transactions. So she'll log into like the dashboard that has all the bank accounts linked to it. Then she'll put it onto like a Google sheet and like organize it. And then we also have like we use Slack and stuff.
What's it called?
I think it was called Personal Capital, but now it's called Empower, I think.
Okay, we're writing this down because wow, we really need this.
Our team uses Slack for all of our communication, and like so we have like this channel called like our accounting channel. So whenever anybody makes a purchase, they just put it into the accounting channel. So like this is what I bought. Here's a picture of the receipt, and this is like what's for the category. And so our VA will take that, match it up to our record in QuickBooks where like it is, and then categorize it accordingly, and then build us charts or whatever as far like our project dashboard. So like basically,
wow, I would pay so much money for that.
Yeah, I mean,
And
just
we
like
spent
I
so
just
much time organizing it.
daily
Sitting right here.
daily reconciling all your finances, and then we're using virtual assistants, so like they're for the pay for like the skill level is like relatively higher. I mean, like the you're paying relatively low price for like she's a CPA, right? So she has like a accounting background and stuff, but it's very reasonable compared to what you would pay somebody like equivalent on the US. And so
Wow, so amazing. And so, when do you like? How do you find your deals? How do you find your deals in the beginning versus how do you find them now that made your flipping business become so successful?
so in the beginning in Indianapolis it was all wholesalers. But
Yeah,
in Hawaii, because there's like no there's like a lot less deals, there's less wholesalers. So it was like outbound marketing. We did direct mail, um, mail. I mean, like the texting, phone calls. We built a website. So like our website has kind of been the biggest driver for us right now. We have like a pay per click and SEO that's pretty strong. So if you type in Summer House Fast Hawaii, probably our site will like be one of the first to pop up in like the organic and also in the pay per click searches. And so that's been a big driver. And then also like networking with agents. And then now that we have like a credibility, other investors want to partner with us. So they'll bring us a deal and then we'll run the deal and then we'll split the profits 50-50 with them. So
oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Who does the deal then? Like, who has the contractors and everything?
we bring everything. We bring the money, we bring the contractors, everything. Bring us a deal and then we'll run it. We'll run together and then we'll split the profit. And we'll teach you along the way too. So it's a good deal for us because we get a little bit extra deal flow and then like we build goodwill in the community and then the investors get to learn and they get 50% and they get the safety of knowing that we know what we're doing, right? Because if you do
Yeah.
it by yourself, it's a lot more scary. Like contractors, they're like raising money, all different kind of things. But because we have it all built in already, we'll add another project to like our project board and teach you along the way. If you want, you can work as little or as much as you want. Some people are like, I want to be really hands on. I want to put in the work. Other people are like, just give me my check at the end. So whatever works for you as an investment.
Why 50%? That's so high for a deal.
It is, but the thing is, like we just, I mean, to us, like the relationships and goodwill matter more than just like the deal itself, right? So if you look
Yeah.
at the actual deal, they're not we're giving way more value than what we're getting as far as like the deal flow and this profit share. And so from a single deal perspective, it doesn't make sense to do that. But if you look at the long term goal of like what you're trying to build as far as like your name in the community, the credibility, and then helping these other investors who are like starting out, when they actually become famous or when they do better, now they're gonna trust you and want to work with you more in the future, right? So it's like in a small microcosm, like it doesn't make sense in this one deal, but if you look at it in the larger picture and a longer time horizon, now this starts to make sense when the more you give, the more you can like add value, the more that you'll kind of like build or build in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Add value. I like that.
I'm super impressed with you, and I think what you've built has been amazing, especially over 3 years. And I think that can be inspiring for a lot of people
Mhm.
listening. I mean, it's just a short, you think about 3 years in the span of like your
Mhm.
life and what you can accomplish. And you have a
Mhm.
team, and you have 4 virtual assistants, and you're making 7 figures in your business per year, and that's so inspiring. So I'm so glad that you were able to come on the podcast because this has been really inspiring for us as well. And so, do you primarily now you've built this community in Hawaii? Do you really believe that when you stick to one market, you have a lot more leverage and you can really dominate that market?
I feel like I think so, and I think Hawaii is like a very unique market just because like we're a little bit separate from like the mainland U.S. There's a lot of different like just the demographics are different, the culture is a little bit different. So I think like by focusing in Hawaii, we have the biggest ROI and our return, and just the price points, a whole bunch of different things. A lot of our
Yeah.
investors, private money lenders, like they only want to invest in Hawaii because they can see and touch it, versus they're a little bit more scared to go out of state because it seems a little more scary for them. So like I think for us, it just makes a lot of sense to just stay in our market, just because there are a lot of like adjoining kind of like benefits of just being inside of the Hawaii market.
Wow. Yeah, no, this has been amazing. I've learned so much, and it's nice to be reminded of things, how we can improve our business as well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, seriously. And so, everybody listening, Daniel's provided so much value. We're going to leave all his links below of where you can find him on social media, all the fun stuff. So, if you want to connect with him, send him a message, follow him, link with him. And everybody listening, don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a follow, give us a comment, and see you guys next week on Blondes Building Equity.
Great, thank you guys.